Welcome to the Cut Above podcast, where average isn't accepted and standards aren't negotiable. No shortcuts, no excuses, just real training, real coaching, and real progress. I'm your host, Cody Maynard, Director of Human Performance for a private security company, owner and operator of Have a Day Fitness, independent personal training company, and Show Up Fitness instructor. This is episode 2. This title of this episode is going to be The Death of Overcomplicated Training. When it comes to training and everything that we see in the world today, and the fitness world that is, it's playing off of last week. There's a lot of influence that comes from social media. Some good, some not so good. And I'm not saying that social media is a bad thing. However, there can be a lot of just muddying of the waters and overcomplication when it comes to setup, execution, training volume, training splits, and blah, 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 that people will argue in semantics all day long. However, I think that simplifying your training to allow for an effort and intensity that is set at a high standard far and away beats overly complex training that's done inconsistently. So when it comes to being able to consistently hit that mark, we come to the first point of the day, which is something that I harp on for not only for myself, but for clients and anyone that I talk to when it comes to training and or getting into the gym for the first time, or whether you've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years. Execution mastery. So this should be priority number one of any training session, any program, any movement, and especially should be the top of the list for new clients who are deconditioned and or have just never trained before. There's people that, have just never been in the gym, and getting them to properly set up, properly execute a movement is going to far and away speed their progress, as opposed to pigeonholing them, constraining them to a point that if they feel like their elbow deviates just 5 degrees on a pull, it's going to throw the whole thing off, and the whole set is null and void. They didn't get any benefit from it. That's not going to do anyone good. Complicated setups, execution cues that are overly detailed, and ridiculously paired or combo exercises, that's a quick and easy distraction from the goal that is at hand, which is move better, feel better, get stronger, and ultimately 99% of people want to lose weight, which is more so should be lose fat. When you nail down and become confident and competent in the movement patterns and the exercises that are in your program that you're going to do consistently, that opens the door for progressive loading and progress that you can extend out over a period of time. It's not just a quick hit of, I did this one time, it didn't feel good, or I did this one time and I had no idea what I was doing, so I'm just never going to do it again. It's peeling back the onion and really simplifying the setup, simplifying A to B. There's no way around it. Then you're going to see that load on the bar, but also the progressive feeling of the movement get better and better and better week over week. If that's not the case, and we have a setup that is extravagant, and an exercise or a movement that has 10 different cues that you're trying to express to someone, whether it be yourself, a client, online, in person, it doesn't matter. That opens the door for aches, pains, potential injury, which is, something that we just don't want to have happen, whether it's, again, to yourself or to clients, especially. That's you don't want you don't want a blown out rotator cuff. You don't want a low back that pops on your resume. That's just never good. So now, why are the basics? And I use that basics as like a broad spectrum term. Why are the basics so effective? I believe that we should cover what are the basics first. When I'm saying basics, I mean I'm essentially referring to the core movement patterns, which are going to be the base of, and should be the base of, all of your programming, and how it can really be simplified from there. So what I teach, how I coach, what I give to other trainers when I am off instructing and or showing the way that I do things, showing the way that Show Up Fitness does things, which I believe is far and away supersedes any and all personal training certifications, communities, groups that you could be a part of, that's going to give you information and prepare you to train any and every body, not just yourself, not just an anatomy chart, not just an anatomy figure or a specialized athlete. You will have the broad spectrum of things. So back to the core movement patterns. There are 8. So we've got squat, a hinge, a push that is vertical, and a horizontal. We've got a pull, again, vertical and horizontal, a unilateral pattern, and also a transitional pattern, which is your jumps, your throws, your carries, anything along those lines. Now, the beauty of programming around these patterns is regression and progression. So I'm emphasizing the regression and progression of these movements. We're not regressing and progressing from an exercise standpoint. We're just talking about a movement pattern standpoint. This allows you to peel back what the actual movement is and provide an appropriate substitute so that to achieve the wanted outcome, which is a safe movement that you or the client feels in the, and again, sensation is not stimulation, but we do want at some level some sort of sensation happening at the target muscle level. And here we could go down a big rabbit hole there, but again, we want it to be, if we need to regress a movement because someone has never done it, cannot access that range of motion, cannot comfortably and confidently move a load or just put the dots together to make it feel or look right, then we can do that because we're just swapping a pattern. We're not just moving exercises or just like hammering home, you have got to do this, you've got to do this movement. I'm not going to be dogmatic when in my programming or in anything. So for example, say you have somebody that has never done a single arm dumbbell row before. More than likely, it's going to look like a train wreck. There's going to be a narrow stance, rounded spine, which isn't bad, so don't come at me for that. But in terms of setup and how we want to achieve the bracing and the movement itself, we don't want that rounded spine. The elbow's probably going to be traveling all over space, which, again, we can get deep dive into the semantics here, but again, we'll get into that detail here. Simple fix for that, regression from that, in my opinion. Although I say regression, I believe it's going to be a progression because we're going to be able to take this movement a whole lot further in the long run, not only in the load category, but in the stimulus and the sensation feeling. We're going to go with a single arm chest supported row, either on a cable stack or on a machine. So for a cable sack, for a cable setup, excuse me, you would just roll a bench over to the stack, have the pad set straight up and down to where the seat is. You make pretty much a 90-degree angle. Cable height is going to be set up roughly at chest level when seated. On the bench, I want your chest to actually be the support. And I use the cue or the term. I want it to be like an upper stomach support as opposed to a full chest support. Because when we have that sternum set high and fixed during this movement, which is going to be the linchpin of, say, the pull, we want to work around that sternum, let the scap move around the ribs and the sternum itself. You're going to then just pull your elbow to your ribs, keeping that chest up high. Bang. There we go. We're stable, able to produce force, and we can stimulate the target muscle at hand without having to, spend 30 or 45 minutes trying to coach and teach a row that is can be an advanced movement, but it also, it's again, the situation at hand. So you have to take the body that is in front of you and be able to see what the movement pattern is, just a horizontal row pattern of, and yes, you are changing the angle of the torso and whatnot, but in the grand scheme of things, that horizontal pulling pattern of a single arm dumbbell row where we want to finish with that elbow as tight to the body, wrapping around the ribs on the way back, squeezing down on that lat, and then letting it out for a full stretch. We can emulate that we can emulate that and have it stable so that there's only one thought in mind. Elbow here to here, A to B, stretch, squeeze. And this is where the social media confusion comes in again. Like from last week, there's a great influence that social media is constantly feeding you. This is the best exercise for your lats. If you want quads like this, you must do this. And more times than not, that's someone that is trying to sell you their guide, their blueprint, or to have you sign up with them because they're showing you these flashy, overly complex, and quite frankly, in my opinion, more times than not, just lackluster movements or exercises because they're selling their insecurity that's masked by complexity that is disguised as intelligence. So when it comes down to what's really going to move the needle, in my opinion, when it comes to simplifying your training, is going to just make sure that you have a mastery level of execution across all movement patterns, across those 8 movement patterns, being able to regress and progress off of those movement patterns, whether it is a time for a progression in terms of, okay, we've had this exercise in, it was ground level to start, and we have ran its course for 2 months, 2.5, 3 months long, and you're no longer at a point to where you can either load it appropriately, or B, you have gotten that movement and that dots are connected so that we can now take it to the next level, and we can further our training, further the stimulus, further the sensation, further the load, and from there, just not falling into the trap. I'm going to say it again, the trap that is fitness social media. There's so much out there. There's good, there's bad, just like with everything. But yeah, keeping a simple mind frame around training, around programming, is going to elicit the most amount of change with the least amount of into the weeds and into the thick of details that you have to go into when it comes to some of these things. Advanced training, in my opinion, is just basic training and simplified training that is done extremely well. One more time. Advanced training is just basic, simplified training that is done extremely well. So with that, I'm going to let you guys sit on that one, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think about today's topic. And as always, if there's anything in particular that you would like to hear about, you have questions, comments about this one, leave them below. Reach out. I would love to further the conversation and also just get a gauge on what you would possibly like to hear from next. If you're interested in working with me, there'll be a link in the description, and or shoot me an email at haveadayfitness@gmail.com. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Hold the standard, be a cut above, and have a day.